A few days ago, I posted a video showing how Cyberpunk 2077 runs on the Xbox One and the Xbox Series X. Well, since then, there's been an update. We have version 1.04. So how does this new update compare to the original 1.0 build? Are there any real improvements? Well, let's find out. We'll cover both the Xbox One and the Series X, starting with the original Xbox One. Here's footage of me running around in a crowded market, lots going on here, and you can see during 1.0 the frame rate suffers tremendously. I saw as low as 13 frames per second. Now here's me walking into that same market now on update 1.04. The frame rate is slightly improved. We're getting mid to high 20s for the most part, and those huge dips to 15 frames per second we saw in 1.0 seem to be fixed. But you can see some things are the same. The Xbox One still struggles to render the game. This same food stall I showed you in 1.0 still takes seconds to render. Now, although it's better, we don't have much going on here. I'm behaving like a really good citizen. So here I started a bit of a fight with some randoms.
You want trouble?
And there we go, boys. The 13 frames per second performance is back. So yeah, the Xbox One can take it as long as you're a law-abiding citizen. As soon as you turn up the heat, it breaks.
This is fucked up.
Here's some more footage with the frames per second shown. Again, it's mid to high 20s for the most part. I did get into another fight here, but the frame rate wasn't as bad as the first fight you saw in that crowded city. In the outskirts here with, less of a crowd, it did manage to stay above 20 frames per second for the most part. In addition to the frame rate, the resolution here, there is a bit of marginal improvements. I mean, you still won't get the full 1080p high definition, but it's higher. It now averages around 790p. So yeah, I still don't recommend playing this on the original Xbox One. Now let's take a look at the Series X, where the game was still playable before the update, and here you can see me walking into that same city market on the Series X version 1.0. Now notice the number of NPCs that are shown here. I mean, there aren't too many. Now here is that same location on 1.04. This is performance mode. That same market, you can clearly see there's a lot more NPCs. The overall feel of the market's a lot more vibrant. So that is a bit of improvement. And when I did flip over to quality mode in 1.04, for some reason I felt that was a little bit more crowded than performance. The Series X is capped at 60 frames per second in performance mode, and it does deliver that 60 frames per second or very close to it in some areas, as you can see here. But in a more crowded areas like this market, it does drop into the mid 30s at times. And here you can see the drops in version 1.0. With the update 1.04, this has been improved. Here, when running into that same marketplace, the frame rate now holds in the mid to high 40s, and when I did start walking, it kind of went back up to 60 frames per second. So yeah, overall, there is a noticeable improvement here in 1.04. And here I got into a fight in that crowded market. The frame rate did dip, but it still held up in the high 40s, almost close to 50.
Jones needs help. He might disagree, but if you don't get to this stubborn gonk first, he's as good as dead. Max is a media and a good friend of mine. Need you to bring him to me. If he puts up a fight, you're clear to
Package over there!
Like I said, stubborn. Deeds attached.
Now let's look at quality mode. The frame rate here is capped at 30 frames per second, and although the frame rate suffers in this mode, the resolution and textures are improved. The good news is that Series X can hold that 30 frames per second in pretty much every scenario I tested.
Oye, despacio. She's been glued to the feeder for days now.
Some kind of new game?
Alright, so there you have it. Update 1.04 does bring a few improvements to the game, but are they enough? Let me know in the comments below. If you're not satisfied with the game, CD Projekt's now offering refunds. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to the channel because there's a lot more gaming content coming your way.